Welcome back. My name's Nick Muller, and today we're talking about focus and freeing up time. The first thing about focus is, if we look at any business, generally we work in one of the four quadrants. We work from either being an employee, so we're wearing the employee's hat, where the business essentially trades our time for a return. Secondly, we work as a self-employed person. We operate as a self-employed person where we trade our own time for money. Thirdly, we can operate as a business owner where we're essentially trading employee and self-employed people's time for money. And the fourth place to operate from is as an investor. And the investor often owns businesses or property, for argument's sake, shares as another example, in order to get a return on capital employed. So all four places are different places to operate from in your business, and all four are very relevant with any business owner, no matter how large or small the business is. Okay, so essentially what happens is we start off as a technician and we make some sales and we get some growth and we hit what we call a ceiling of complexity. And then what happens is we break through that, and typically this is a 6 to 12 full-time employee or contractor combination, this ceiling. I used to try and measure it on revenue and turnover, but it's fairly inaccurate. It's more accurate to look at it from a perspective of a full-time employee or contractor angle. The reason for that is that as the business grows, it gets to this point where all the decisions are going through the business owner, and there's so much complexity creeping in that stifles growth. Essentially, you're running from sales to production to hiring and firing and all of the things that are finance, etc., and all of the things that are involved trying to get your business to grow. So when you started out, perhaps you didn't have this conundrum, you made some sales, the growth was quick. So we're dealing with the ceiling of complexity. We're dealing with it today from the perspective of focus and freeing up time so that you can get to the other side. On the other side, there's more growth if you choose to take that step. The other thing is you don't even need to be, so big is not necessarily better. You can be a business owner without even selling $1 more worth of widgets. So essentially, you could be turning over exactly the same amount of revenue and running more effectively rather than more efficiently. So there's a little bit of a interesting phenomenon there. We're talking about effectiveness versus efficiency. We're focusing on effectiveness today. So why are you doing what you're doing in the first place? That's the real question. So when we look at focus, the first thing we have to do is look at how, as a self-employed person, there's a correlation between running faster and getting increased results. So just to give you a little bit more context around that, more time in the business as a self-employed person equals more results. And if the result we're looking for is to sell more, for argument's sake, turn over more, make these sales, it doesn't necessarily correlate when we're operating as a business owner. So, and I'll give you a bit more about understanding around that. As a business owner, the less time you spend in the business, the more results you get. Okay, so that's an interesting conundrum. So what you're telling me, Nick, is if I run faster over here, I'm not going to produce more results. I'm not going to increase my sales or increase my revenue or be more effective. And the answer is no, absolutely you won't. Basically what happens is we get stuck between these two places. We get stuck as a self-employed technician and we don't actually fully make the shift to becoming a business owner. So the question is, how do we do that? How do we go about making that shift to becoming a business owner? And the answer is we have to, once we get to a certain size, the 6 to 12 employees, and all the decisions are coming through us, we actually have to start to shift the way we're operating. We actually have to start implementing systems, and everybody says implement systems, but more than that, we need to get people running systems and systems running the business. And one step at a time, we have to reduce the business's reliance on us at an operational level. We need to get out of the trenches and more into a overseeing scenario. So how do we do that? Without losing control and having the balls hit the ground, well, we have to replace functions with people running that function. Okay, now just looking at our focus and shifting our focus from being a self-employed person to operating as a business owner, without even necessarily turning over $1 more, we can operate from this side of the cash flow quadrant, or the quadrant, the paradigm. So the first thing we need to do is we need to start to identify what are the things that we're doing that are a very, very low cost use of our time. So, low return use of our time, and also quite often we're playing the short game. What I mean by that is if you're picking up the mail from the post office, or doing a GST, or the GST might be the thing that you should be doing, but it might not be the thing that you should be doing. I'm not sure. You need to identify things that are a low use of your time, a low value use of your time, and start to eliminate them. So the first thing is you need to stop doing, I call this the 4 S's. You need to stop doing what doesn't serve you. So you need to stop doing ineffective activity. And this is pretty simple, and you might have heard the Pareto's principle before, 80-20 rule. 20% of your activity is largely on 80%, largely producing 80% of the results that you're getting. And so the question around the activity that's producing the 80% of the results is, how do I Not how do I do more of the effective stuff, that's part of it, but how do I do less of the ineffective stuff? So this is what we're talking about. This is the stuff that keeps you stuck in the doing and being a rat on the wheel. Okay, so, and if we go a step further, we look at our time. How much time do we spend on the activity that produces the results? And so we look at stop doing the ineffective activity, and we look at also shifting our focus. Shift your focus onto the effective activity. So you need to do less of the stuff that doesn't serve you, and more of the stuff that will actually serve you. Now the conundrum here is that often the stuff that you're doing is short game, and when you shift your focus onto the long game, there's a effort return curve on your activity. So you put effort in now and you're not going to get it for a while. So there's this lag time before you produce a result. This is what keeps us trapped in this self-employed paradigm, is we don't free up enough time to work on the effective stuff that has a long-term return. So there's kind of a catch-22. If you don't get out of it though, you're not going to actually get anywhere. The loop's going to keep reinforcing itself as you find. So driving into the ceiling of complexity won't actually get you out of the ceiling of complexity. That's the conundrum around time management. So we need to shift our focus onto what will get us, and that might be building systems, identifying systems. It might be getting the right admin finance person in to help us with that side of the business. It might be get a part-time receptionist in 3 days a week to sort something out. Then we have to also be very selective. And if we look at incoming, so we have to be selective. What do we have to be selective about? If we look at incoming priorities, other people's priorities, we need to look at either deselecting or selecting what we can do now, or shifting those priorities to a later time where we can actually work on them. So we need to be selective around what's coming in and what we're going to work on now. And if we can't work on it right now, shift it to a future, like next Tuesday at 3 o'clock. So we actually need to manage our diary very effectively and find spots in it and be disciplined around that. And then so stop, shift, selective, and start. So start working on the stuff, find a way to. And quite often people say, well, I haven't got enough time to start working on the stuff that's important. Well, you kind of haven't got enough time not to. You actually have to step into it. One of the things I did recently was I tried to get as much of my activity into the cloud, so online Google, calendar, and Xero on my phone, and all this stuff electronic, so that I could start working. And one of the things I do is I write my material online in the cloud, so when I'm in between meetings or whatever, I've got some time, I've got half an hour, I can work away at that. So the thing is, you have to find efficiencies so that you can start working on the right stuff. So start working on the effective activity. Selective, so deselect that which doesn't serve you. And focus on the stuff that will take you forward. So that's essentially what's required to shift the pathway from being self-employed and stuck in this recurring loop to reducing your time in the business and setting yourself up so you can start to produce results more effectively.